It's equally as good and more important in my opinion.
Yes.
We love to hear it.
Hi,
How are you
how
doing?
are you? I'm okay. Thank you. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing incredibly well. We've been live streaming for 4.5 hours almost. I've been very
Wow.
much looking forward to this conversation on comms and PR.
Yeah.
How are you? How's your day been?
Oh, my day has been busy. As always, my days are always busy because there's a lot going on in comms, and there are a lot of things that I have to juggle at the same time. So, yeah, but it's been good. It never gets boring, which is why I love this job.
We love to see it. Can you give us a little bit of context into you and Earlybird as a whole?
Right. Well, I'm gonna start with myself. So I started my journey as a chemist, actually. My background is chemistry, even though now I work in comms. But I studied chemistry. I did a PhD in chemistry. I was working myself as a scientist, doing research, and then I realized, well, academia is not really my thing, so I'm gonna leave academia and go and do something else. But at the same time, while I was doing that, I was also doing a lot of theater and stage work and some film projects. So I had that kind of like storytelling, communication already parallel to my chemistry studies and research. So I thought, I need to find a way to combine these two separate worlds and these two separate paths that I was taking. And so I started working at Cambridge Enterprise, which is the commercialization arm of the University of Cambridge in the UK. And this is how I entered the whole innovation ecosystem and the innovation world. And I was fascinated by it. And then from there, I moved to Earlybird VC, to Earlybird Health, actually, which is a separate fund, and it's dedicated to healthcare only. And yeah, and so now I lead communications for Early Bird Health, and we also support our portfolio companies as well with communications and PR. But having that scientific background myself and coming from research myself,
Helps.
I can understand exactly. It helps so much, because yeah, I can just understand the science or the technology, and then it's easier for me to translate that in a way that our audience can then understand as well. So simplify. Yeah, it's easy for me to simplify that complexity just because of my own background. And yeah, and this is how I ended at Earlybird Health. Earlybird is a venture capital firm, a pan-European venture capital firm. We have two separate funds, Earlybird and Earlybird Health. And as I said, I work for the health fund, and yeah, we are a dedicated fund for healthcare.
Love it. I've got so many questions when it comes to your background and how that relates to comms and PR. Let's start with the
Sure.
theater. Where the hell did that come from? It feels so left of field for a scientist.
Yeah, right. It's not a common thing, right?
But I'm sure plays into what you
I
do today really well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I didn't think, back then when I started doing theater and art and being on stage and doing the whole storytelling thing, I had no idea this is going to be so helpful now, but it is crucial, all that experience and all those skills that I gained. But I mean, I don't know, I always loved it. I loved like storytelling and performing in front of people and creating stories and bringing them on stage or in front of the camera. So, and yeah, I started at a very young age. I mean, I remember as a kid already, I would create little shows for our family, and I would well, not force, but inspire my cousins to participate. And we would create these shows and perform, in front of our parents and uncles and aunts for Christmas or New Year's Eve and things like that. So I loved doing that always as a kid. And then I, first time when I got on stage was I think I was 14 or 15. And I never left. So I kept doing, shows and projects, and whether it was.
Are we doing recreations of like old books like Othello as an example, or are these like kind of newer theatre productions where it's new concepts or a little blend of both?
Both, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've done many different projects. Also original plays as well. So I've also done for some projects I had to write the play myself,
What do you
and then
prefer?
perform
Do you
that
prefer
myself.
doing a
So
story that is someone else's, or do you like writing the play yourself?
both.
Oh, there's got to
It's
be
very
one. There's got to be one
different.
more than the other. It's like you are participating in someone else's storyline, and then the other one is you are
Yeah.
creating your own storyline.
Yeah, I mean, it depends in which role I am participating, I guess. If
Writer
I
and
am
actress.
right. So as a writer, obviously, I would love to write my own story. As a producer, I am actually currently producing a film right now. It's not my story, but I right. That's outside of Earlybird. But stay tuned for that. Um, as a producer, I'm okay producing someone else's story. But as an actress or actress, I don't know. I'm okay with with having someone else's story because I am creating my own character. So it's still my own creation, but the story is someone else's. But if I want to write a play, then yeah, I'd love to write it myself and then have other people maybe perform it
What
or
has it
produce
given
it.
you throughout your life that has like allowed you to do PR so well, or sort of like plays into the role you do today?
Well, the whole theater film experience throughout all those years. As I said, I started very, very young and I never stopped. So it's like decade, more than a decade, gosh, um, of constantly doing this. And what you learn throughout all those years is not just about how to write a story, you learn so much about how to interact with your audience.
Oh,
And that is super important for the job that I do now, for example, because the job that I do now, the audience, it can be diverse. So the story that we're telling or the narrative that we're creating, it it should be different depending on the audience. For example, if we are supporting a portfolio company or one of my clients, depending on what stage they're at the moment and what story they need to tell, we need to adjust that story depending on the audience. So, for example, if they are currently doing clinical trials, the audience that is maybe like very important at the moment is, regulatory bodies, for example. So the story that we tell will be different from when we then, create a story for investors, for example. Because investors, they are a different audience. They will want to hear different things, whereas a regulatory body is interested in other things. Or the journalist and the media outlet. Again, the story, I mean, the core message is the same, but you have to adjust it because your audience now is a journalist, so you have to pitch to a journalist. So getting to know your audience is something that I learned throughout those years of doing theater and then being able to communicate with the audience as well. Like when you're pitching to investors, for example, you have to create a kind of connection with the investors while you are pitching and while you are presenting. And you have to be aware of their reaction and you have to see, are they following you? Do they still have their attention?
what clues do
Are
you
they
look out for
making
throughout
pos
that?
facial expressions, body language,
How do you read
or
someone that also knows that they're doing it and sort of can has have built defense mechanisms in? It's a nuance, isn't it?
it is a nuance. Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, usually people they tell a lot through their facial expression. So not a lot of people are able to, keep that poker face. So if they are confused about something that you're saying, you will see that in their eyes. Right. Like that facial expression that you're doing now, which wasn't confusion. It was more like, oh, interesting. But yeah, you kind of like see that. But it's not something that comes automatically to everyone. But for me, because I've done years of theater and I've been acting with other actors and looking at the audience many, many times, I learned how to read the audience and to read their energy as well, and then adjust my own performance, for example, or my own talk. Like I remember during a conference, I was doing a talk on my own research, and there was something complex that I was trying to explain. And I noticed like almost all of them, they made the expression of what? Like, what is she talking about? What is this? Like, I don't get it. And I saw that, and then I immediately, stopped, and I was like, okay, let me explain this differently. Um, so so you get that, yeah, you get that feedback from the audience, but you have to be aware. So you have to look at the audience, and you have to, while you're doing your pitch to the investors, you have to kind of like get out of your head and get out of yourself and focus on your audience and see, what you're getting back from them, and then you can adjust your messaging.
This idea of understanding your audience, and with theatre it's this instant feedback loop, right? It's very much similar to building product today, or like building content media today.
Right,
It's like
right.
there is instant feedback if the customer likes it, or it's not, right? And you
Mm-hmm,
get bad press or you get good press. How do you
mm-hmm.
communicate that to founders? Do you use that similar parallel of like it's the same way when someone doesn't like a feature in the product or whatever it is that you're building? Um, you need to deeply understand their emotional state and how they are vibing with the product. Is that the same for comms?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So you you have to, I mean, when you're talking to a founder and you want to, give them some feedback on their own comms and
Mm.
branding and narrative, um, you have to understand your own audience, because now, as a comms person as well, when I talk to another person or to another stakeholder, I need to know who that person is. And if that is a founder, I need to know who that founder is and what their product is and how attached they are to their product. And then I can adjust my own, communication to them according to that, and how attached they are. So sometimes, when they are too attached to the product and they don't accept any feedback, you have to be a bit careful how you talk to them. And some other people are just very open to feedback, and they're okay with any, feedback that you give them or any tips. And then, you can communicate maybe more easily with them. But again, this goes back to knowing your audience. um,
What's best
and then you
practices
adjust
with regards to
the message.
comms today?
Oh, in what sense? Because comms is just so broad. Um,
In the sense of,
it's still, yeah,
sorry, I was going to say, in the sense of the
yeah.
fact that, you might have seen the interview that came out from Harry Stebbings and 11 Labs yesterday, and they were talking deeply about the fact that, 11 Labs had done a lot of normal press, traditional media outlets. And whilst they thought it would move the needle and it was this one asset that went out, they did not they weren't speaking
Mm,
to the right people. And in reality, it was
mm-hmm.
like the people in the newsletters, it was the people in YouTube. It is like having a conversation directly with your customer versus like pure play distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Today, do
Right.
you see a transition towards that? Or do you still play in the space of like, we want to talk to very large media outlets?
No, no, I don't think it's best practice to talk to just very large media outlets. You need to target yeah, you need to have a target. You need to do targeted outreach to media. And that depends on the story that you're trying to pitch, and the company that you are, trying to support with your PR. So if the company is in the medtech space, then it's better, and you will have a higher success rate in pitching to journalists who write about medtech and who operate in the medtech space, and media outlets that are, operating in that niche sector in the medtech, for example. You could still try to go to the larger media outlets, but your story has to be incredibly strong, and it has to appeal to the larger media outlets, because they also have a larger audience, but they have a diverse audience. So they have to decide for themselves, is the story actually a story that my own audience is going to read? Is it strong enough? Is it interesting enough? Whereas with a niche media outlet that is specifically in that sector, it's easier to pitch the story because their audience is people from the medtech sector, for example, and they know, the journalist, that the audience will read the story that you're pitching. So So when pitching to journalists or to media outlets, you now not only have to think about this audience, so the journalists that you're pitching to, but you have to think about their audience as well. So what is their audience? Is their audience in the medtech sector? Okay, then if I am pitching a medtech story, then I have higher chances, and then I can, target this, and then I can pitch to this journalist. But if their audience is maybe you have a journalist that you really love and you love their stories, and maybe you really want to pitch to their journalist, but if they're right about I don't know, batteries, for example, and you're trying to pitch a medical
It's
device,
not the right fit.
it, exactly, it's about the fit, so it won't help. So you
Okay.
have to know their audience as well. Yeah.
What do you think of this sort of movement towards building in public with startups today? Of like, I want to basically post about everything that we're doing online, whether that's product updates, whether that's failures and successes within the company. Are you
Mm,
for or against that? Do you, because obviously I truly believe that building in public and building an audience helps with the defensive, well, not defensibility, but helps with users at an early stage because you get that built-in distribution for people who love the journey. From your point of view, and from the individuals that obviously sit in venture, do you like that? Do you not like that?
mm, I mean, I feel like it can help, but there is a risk that it all becomes just noise
Right.
and it becomes too much. Um, you kind of have to find the right balance. And but you have to have a strategy about it. So I think it depends on what your product is, what the company is, maybe who the CEO is, who the investors are, who are the stakeholders. And then you can create a strategy around it and, assess whether it will really be helpful for you to build everything in public, or maybe is it more helpful to be more scarce with your information and your news. So it depends, and yeah, you have to assess what will move the needle more, but you have to create a strategy for that. But me personally, I'm not a huge fan of doing a lot in public because it can become noise. Yeah, yeah, I feel like having a little bit of like mystique sometimes helps with building anticipation
It's
and
like when people meet me in person, they go, "Oh, you're exactly the same." I'm like, "Yeah, what did you expect?" It's like
yeah.
what like this is me. This is the chaos that is ventures, that is the show. Because you can't in the way that we do, obviously we sort of we build in public here is it's very much I
Uh-huh.
can't hide behind five
Yeah.
hours worth, 6 hours worth of live streaming. It's quite you have to be yourself. And so
Mm,
I think with a strategy when it comes to like copy-based content or pre-recorded assets, you have this opportunity to beautifully craft the story. How do
hmm
you tell a good story these days, especially from a comms POV?
hmm Um,
Because I like the
well,
hero
you
arc.
need
I very
the
much like the hero arc because it sort of hits all the right notes very quickly. You sort of get involved with what is going on. From your point of view, what is it?
yeah. Um, Telling a good story or creating a good narrative is it's kind of like I see it as building a puzzle. Like there are so many different pieces that you have to put together in order to build this bigger puzzle and the bigger picture that will then help, elevate the firm's profile or the company's profile, and then that will lead to, attracting more money, attracting more talent, etc. But to tell that story, to build that narrative, you have to build the puzzle, and there are different elements that you have to put into it. So it's the story itself, in terms of what is the core message, what do you want to tell, what is the angle. Then it's the technology. If we're talking about, deep tech companies, for example, what is the technology? And you have to understand it well, and you have to be able to simplify it, that complex technology, in a way that people will understand. But you then have to find the balance, not to simplify it too much, because if you simplify it too much, then you maybe lose credibility. So you still need that, technology in there. So
And with
it's
like,
the technology.
what do you think about the overarching mission that you're trying to accomplish? Is that equally as important?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. That is what guides everything. That is like this big picture that that I was trying to say and building that with the puzzle pieces. So you have to put all these pieces together, and then you have the content, and then you have the timing, which is super important. And you have the graphics and the visuals. You need to choose the right platform. You need to choose, the right media outlet, for example. So you put all these pieces together, and they have to fit well with each other, because if they don't match or if they don't fit well, like you could have a great story and you could have a great angle and already, journalists that you can contact and get the story out. But if the timing is not right, then that story will not have a huge impact. It will not move the needle that much. So all of these pieces have to fit together in order to create this bigger, picture that will then, yeah, elevate or move the needle or elevate the whole company, or the VC firm, or a person, if you are, representing a specific person as a PR person.
What
So
platforms do you like at the
yeah.
moment? Do you like X? Do you like LinkedIn? Do you like Threads? Is there a space that you like to tell the stories on, or prefer to tell
Hmm.
your stories on for your portfolio companies that actually moves the needle more than most?
Well, we use LinkedIn a lot, and we have already we have already created a huge audience there, and we have a huge following that help, us amplify every story that we're telling also for our portfolio company. So this is our main social media platform that we use. We use X and Instagram as well, but those are kind of like secondary. So LinkedIn has been working well so far, and we have gotten attention from that as well. For example, there have been stories of, maybe a company, or like an insurer has contacted us because they saw this LinkedIn post about this portfolio company that is doing this specific thing, and then wanted to know more, for example. So it does attract attention, and it works well, and that is because we have already a huge audience, so we can leverage that. um
Who do you
yeah,
think
that's
outside
our main
outside the
platform.
portcos that does comms really well?
um right, you mean generally
Just
in
in
the
general, within the
world?
context of health
Yeah.
and what Earlybird invests in from their health fund, in that med tech environment,
Mm.
who does it really well at the moment?
um well, the companies that are bigger and they have more funding and they have more resources, they are able to invest more in comms and in PR. And whether that is an internal comms and PR team, or they hire an external PR agency if they have the resources, and it's usually when they're a bit, later in their stage, or they have more funding and more resources, you know, they can do that well because they will have the people to do it. And for smaller companies or companies who don't have that funding yet, or they need to invest more money in developing the product, for example, or clinical trials, then they can, have our support, in terms of comms and PR. And so then we can support them with the whole narrative building strategy. We can
How
provide our
important
own
at early
network.
stage is it for them to have a really strong comms strategy?
Very important.
Because
Yeah.
I was talking to Synthesia's like basically single comms guy within the company, Alex. You might have met him, and he was basically saying startups might like they typically outsource this stuff because they think it's not important, right? But
Mm,
owning your narrative today more than ever and telling your story and having ownership of your
yeah.
story is deeply important. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. It's very important, and unfortunately, yeah, as you said, not a lot of startups, think about it, and they outsource it, or maybe it's just secondary for them. And in a way, I get it because they are focusing more on, product, building the product or getting it to market, and other things, but getting more funding. But comms or yeah, building the narrative is important, and it's good to have it implemented right at the beginning, because then you can control your own story and you can control your narrative.
And
So it has to be part of that strategy and the architecture.
that comms strategy, what does a good one look like? Is it a combination of like various assets, so copy, images, videos, or is it something? Am I missing something? I'm missing a trick.
No, no, you're not. You're completely right. It's a combination of all those things, but also what is important. Yeah, the things that I mentioned, like graphics, content, timing, tone, the branding. So you have to, match the brand of the company, but or of the firm. But also, what is important is the mission as well, and also the goals. Where are you going, and what are the goals? Are your goals maybe for the next couple of months or a year? To raise Series B, for example, because if that's the main goal, then the com strategy will, be adapted, and you will target things that might move the needle towards that funding, and position the company as, a company that deserves the funding, basically, and is going places. So you have to know what the goal is, and you have to be very clear about it. And also the values of the company have to be incorporated into it. So everything that you communicate then has to match the values of the company as well. And yeah, it's all those pieces coming together, and it's kind of a complex system. And it's not just the pieces, putting all those pieces together, but they have to match well with each other in order to have this good product in the end that can then, move the needle for the company or for the VC firm and elevate their own profile,
Freskida,
which
this has
then
been a
leads to more visibility, more funding, more talent, and
it's a
yeah.
flywheel that just keeps on spinning, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And it's like how, if you can
Um,
build this perpetual motion to keep it spinning,
yeah,
you're in a great place.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
instill that in
But
all
it's
of the startups and the portcos?
sorry.
Do you instill that in all of the startups and the
Yeah, of
portcos?
course.
It's like build the
Yeah.
flywheel, get it
It's
rolling, and then it's never ending.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And everything then fuels each other, and it kind of like grows from there, and but it grows organically, and this is what we want. Yeah, this is what we want to create the narrative, and we want to create movements. And the best examples out there are those companies that have created like huge communities and movements, like Apple or like Taylor Swift in the music industry, like in different industries. When you think about good comms and storytelling, it's the people that have created their own communities, like the Apple people or the Swifties or I don't know, Christopher Nolan with his movies. So they create, they are like magnets. Then they pull all the people in, and they create those communities and those movements.
I think
Um,
we've got a lot
so
to learn from
that's a
movies
good
about
comms.
applying it to comms, right?
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of things that I apply into my job from like movies and theater world, um, and
what's
it
like the one
helps.
that always comes back you come back to? Is it Inception? Is it a Nolan film? Is it a Tarantino? Is there one that you steal
Oh,
from?
gosh, it's Christopher Nolan, I would say. I love
We
his
love
films.
Nolan.
He's great. And because he does exactly like he pulls all those puzzle pieces together and they fit perfectly together. Like, but in film it's different, right? You have other elements. You have the screen, like the story, you have the actors, you have the cinematography, the score,
But like,
and other
is it
things.
any
And he
different?
brings the best into it.
Is it any different? You're just world building. Like he just world builds incredibly well with a really strong cast and a really strong script.
Yeah,
And that cast brings the
yeah,
script alive, but the cinematography
right.
brings the cast alive. And like you can apply that same logic to the comm strategy or at least the visual assets and the copy that you put out of crafting the
Exactly.
story of what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can apply that. Yeah. Which is, yeah, what I do. And I like to do that.
Love it. Freskida, this has been an
I like to
absolute
cross.
pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much
Oh,
for the
there's
time.
so much to talk about,
We'll
but
have to do an in
thank you.
person version.
Definitely. Yeah,
Speak
it's
to you
been a
soon.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye.